Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, DEI coordinator for the city of Appleton.
And I'm Sarah Schneider, Mobility Manager for Valley Transit.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
Timber, I really appreciate the opportunity today to be a co-host with you because I know of this organization because I'm in the community and I see them everywhere. However, I don't know about this organization, so I'm very excited to learn right along with you.
Well then, you know what, Sarah, that makes me even more excited because I know a little bit about this organization. I've had the opportunity to kind of learn from them and work with them and partner with them. So I'm pretty excited to share this amazing organization with the Appleton Engaged listeners. But more importantly, we have an amazing guest this week who's going to tell us about this resource. So this week's guest is April Savage, the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the League of Women's Voters of Appleton, Fox Cities. Hey, April, what's going on?
Hey, Timber. Hey, Sarah.
How are you doing today?
Oh, it's Friday. I'm doing well.
It's very funny. Do you ever notice how when people say the word Friday, they say it with a smile typically?
Absolutely. I still have the Friday smile, so it's all good.
Yes. Well, April, can you please tell us about yourself and your association with Appleton and the Fox Cities region?
Oh, sure. Thanks. So, as you said, I'm April Savage. I currently live on the north side of Appleton with my husband, Ben, our 4 kids, and our 2 very tolerant cats. I'm not formally working right now, but I do definitely try and pay attention to what's going on. Kids go to Ferber Elementary, Einstein Middle School, and the Apple Creek Y. So I first came to this region when I was 18 years old. Yay, it was my first adult decision to come here. And I met Ben freshman year when I was living in Plants, and we both graduated from Lawrence in 2005. And then we actually got married at the Outagamie County Courthouse in 2006. So married here, and then after we were married, I started working for Humana just up the road in De Pere in their government relations department, which was a really exciting time. That was during the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare. And then we moved around for a bit after that. So we were in Madison and Chicago, and then we started our family. And then we came back here 6 years ago and had our daughter during the pandemic, which was a really interesting experience. But all of that is to say, even though I'm not from here, I fit that boomerang story. So I know a lot of folks around here kind of leave for a bit and then find themselves returning.
And you do fit that story.
Yeah,
Okay.
For sure.
So, April, can you please tell us about your resource?
Yeah, so I do a lot of work with the League of Women Voters, Appleton, Fox Cities. So for this area and for our organization, the Fox Cities, we think of it as Appleton, Kaukauna, Grand Chute, Combined Locks, Harrison, Center, Greenville, Hortonville, Little Chute, Kimberly. It's basically the Fox Cities except for Neenah and Fox Crossings. The way our organization is structured is there's a national, state, and local level. So there's also local chapters of the league in Winnebago County and the greater Green Bay area. So we coordinate or collaborate with them often. But for the Appleton Fox Cities group, we actually have an office just down the road at 120 North Morrison. So Appleton is our home base here.
And what are some of the things that the League of Women's Voters do? Because I think this is so timely with this being an election year, and you see them everywhere. But what is it? What's the goal, purpose, mission, and what are y'all always out there doing?
Thanks so much for asking and for saying that you see us everywhere. That's really good feedback. So first and foremost, the League of Women Voters is a people's organization. It is not just for women. The name pays tribute to our roots, which were the suffragists from the National American Women's Suffrage Association, who began the league as they called it, a mighty political experiment 6 months before the passage of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. So they knew that that was coming, and they thought to themselves, well, now we have to show these 20 million women how to vote and where to vote and when to vote. So that was the seed or the catalyst that started the organization. So today, as I was saying, we operate at the national, state, and local levels. So currently there's more than 800 state and local leagues throughout all 50 states. We also have a presence in DC, the Virgin Islands, and Hong Kong. And really the mission, to get back to your question, the main purpose of what we do is really comes into 3 areas. The first is we ensure that there's informed and active participation in government. The second is to increase the understanding of major public policy issues. And the third is to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Really, I think that, if I had to distill down in maybe comic book terms to say, what do you do? We are the democracy defenders. Democracy works when everyone participates. So it is our mission to make sure that everyone is educated and knows about voting, knows about the issues, especially locally.
I love that you mentioned that whole history, because I would have assumed, first of all, that you're the League of Women Voters, therefore it's all about women. So that's a great clarification. I also love that you want to influence democracy. I'm curious. I'm going to play a really ignorant question. I've also heard the United States referred to as a constitutional republic. What's the difference?
That's a great question. I'm sure that if I try and go into a textbook answer, I'll probably say something wrong. But just to put it into practical, like real terms, like what is democracy? Again, the more representation, the more voices that you have participating, the better, the stronger, the more effective your government is. And Timber, you were saying that this is, right now we have an election coming up. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of noise going on. And yes, national politics, national issues are very important. And that's what everybody, I think, thinks about when they think about democracy in our country and politics. In my experience and from what I see, local government has such a huge impact on people's lives. And it is happening all the time, right? There are unsung heroes and unseen heroes at the local level, whether it's a city or a town or a county or a school board. There are people doing the work of democracy, and they are so often overlooked. So our mission, our reason for being, is to make sure that the people that are making those decisions are hearing from the people impacted by their decisions on the day-to-day basis, especially the people that may not be familiar with how government works or what it is to be civically engaged. So that's what we're trying to bridge, is that gap between those impacted by the policy and those making the policy.
And to add to that, if I may, I also appreciate what I hear you saying is that you will help educate voters about policy and about the efforts, because right now the media has really made it difficult for somebody to fully grasp what is truth, what are the issues, and how do those impact me.
Exactly. Mis and disinformation are something that we talk about all the time and actively work to combat, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I think, any generation, any era is going to say, in these times, it's hard to know, or, there's some new invention that changes things. It does feel particularly difficult now to know what's what in the world of social media. And as I said, so much noise and hype coming at you. I do want to say a few things about our organization, because I think it sets us apart from other political or advocacy organizations that you may be familiar with. First of all, there's 2 foundational pillars to the League of Women Voters. The first is that we are nonpartisan. So what does that mean? We do not support or oppose any political party, any political candidate, anyone for office. We are not about telling you who to vote for. We are into the mechanics of voting. How do you register to vote? When do you vote? What's on your ballot? The second foundational pillar for the League is our diversity, equity, and inclusion pillar. That means
You're a
that
pillar.
yeah. And it's not just me. And that's another thing too. DEI can't just be, oh, you're the DEI person. This is your world. No, it's everyone. It's everything, right? And so being inclusive and accessible means that we have to be conscientious and work extra hard to make sure that the people that are least likely to vote, that are least likely to be represented, know what's going on, know how to get engaged. So that's where the work comes in from the DEI perspective. And I know, honestly, there's a lot of baggage around those terms, especially right now when you see DEI and some people, it's a buzzword and red lights go off or whatever. I think it's important to be honest about who we are and our past, our present, and who we want to be. When we talk about DEI locally, so the local Appleton Fox Cities chapter, we are very engaged in the local community on our DEI journey. That means we have to learn through the eyes of the oppressed. We have to recognize historical injustices and our part in it. We have to face the truth of oppression, and we have to take the initiative to break down the systems of oppression. And if we honestly look at the League's history from the women's suffrage movement in the 1920s that I talked about, it's not good, frankly. So the League was founded by a suffragist named Carrie Chapman Catt. She was a complicated character. She was a political operative. Many people thought she was progressive because she was a woman in the 1920s fighting for this. But if I were to simply label her or categorize her, I would label her a racist. Addressing that history is critical. Actions speak louder than words, too, when we talk about this. So even though the League has evolved, like most organizations, and changed over time, if we look at where we were during the civil rights movement, the League's policy and the words were probably, coming from a more inclusive place, but we were not in the front lines. We were way too much on the sidelines. We acknowledge that shortcoming, and we have more work to do, frankly. So even though today, nationally, the League serves millions of underrepresented communities to try and get them engaged and to make government more reflective and responsive to their needs, we still have more work to do. If we look at our membership, it doesn't reflect that diversity. It doesn't reflect that. So we're not only striving for better, we will be better.
And look at the passion in that response and in the way you just described where you've been and where you are and where you're going. I absolutely applaud you, and I appreciate that clarification. If anything, it really does answer a lot of my questions.
Well, one thing that I really appreciate that I always see the League out in the community doing is hosting panels with candidates. So you can actually hear them share what do they stand for and what do they want to see out of government and how they plan on operating as someone in government. I just think that's important, and I've seen the League do just a great job with those panels and flushing out those questions and giving those candidates an opportunity to tell their platforms.
Thanks, Timber. Yeah, I think one of my proudest moments being involved with the League, you both may recall in 2020 we had a mayoral election, and it was a really hot topic, and the League hosted a candidate forum. This was before the construction on the library began, and so we were using the big conference room in the old library, and we actually had to turn people away because it was just so there was so much interest in the community to have the opportunity to sit in a just, neutral, objective. Here are the two candidates. They have the same questions. They have timed responses. There's no spin or slant to just hear directly. I mean, that's going back to your question, what's the difference between, democracy and a republic, right? That's direct, democracy right there. You can ask questions. Your elective officials are right in front of you, or those hoping to become your elected officials. And I will say that one of the benefits of the pandemic was that we got a lot better and smarter at doing virtual so that more people can attend, and that any of those candidate town halls that we would run are available as recordings. So even if you can't attend at that time, you can still benefit from the information shared. I do want to just plug really quick, shameless self-promotion here. We do have a website that is separate from our league website. It's called vote411.org. And we put a lot of work into interviewing all local candidates, whether it's school board, common council, county board supervisor. We ask anyone running for the position the same questions. It's all submitted in writing, and we post it without editing on that website. So if you want to do your homework, if you want to do some research, you can just go on the website and say, where is this candidate at on the issues I care about? And if a candidate chooses not to respond, which some of them do, we'll just simply state that candidate did not respond.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually was hoping you would.
Yeah.
I had planned to ask about that, so thank you.
Yay.
Another thing that I've seen the league out there doing that I think is awesome is voter registration.
Absolutely. And I have to be really careful of the words I use because we technically do voter registration assistance. Only a voter can register themselves, which is a good thing. But what we do is we set up tables, and this is probably where you've seen us. We go to the farmer markets, and we go to the big, city parties, for lack of a better word, like Juneteenth and Latino Fest we'll be at. And we set up a table and, we try and engage people, bring them in and walk them through. It's myvote.wi.gov. It's a fantastic website run by the state. So that is not our website. That is completely run by the state of Wisconsin. And you can register online. You can check your registration status. You can see where your polling place location is. You can see what is on your ballot. So there's tons of really good, useful, important information for being active. I think voting is sort of step one, right, in the civic engagement spectrum. So we try and get as many people into that and aware so it's top of mind. So you remember, we always like to promote absentee voting because you can do it sooner. So if something, I know with 4 kids, like you never know who's going to be sick or what's going to come up. You might not be able to get to the poll that day. If you vote absentee, then it's a done deal and you've already voted and your vote's there and will be counted. So we promote, the different ways of voting in addition to just showing up on election day. I'm really, really proud of something that we've started for the first time in the last election cycle. We now work with the local DMV. So I think this is such a common misunderstanding or misconception that when you go to the DMV, like if you move or you need to renew your driver's license, I think a lot of people assume like, oh, I was registered to vote. I went to the DMV. I'm like automatically re-registered to vote. That is not the case. So if you move, you need to re-register to vote in your new location. So we just set up shop. Like as people are coming away from the DMV counter, we're like, oh, hey, you need to re-register to vote. We can show you how to do that. You're here. Why don't you just take 2 seconds and click on the website? We have an iPad. You can use it. So I feel like that has been a really effective way for us to reach people that otherwise might fall through the cracks and then fall off the voter rolls.
So that was you greeting me at the DMV.
There you go. That was us. Yeah.
You had that experience.
I did. And of course, I'm registered to vote. So I kindly and respectfully thanked them for asking and went on my way. But it was really interesting. I thought that's interesting that they're at the DMV.
Yeah. The other cool thing that we do is for high school seniors, we'll go during like their lunch periods or their homerooms, and any turning 18 or 18-year-old high school student, we'll make sure that they get registered right away. So we'll just be available. They can come to the library or wherever we're set up, and we can walk them through voting, they can ask questions. It's a very, unobtrusive, easy, place to ask questions because, if you're 18, you're a first-time voter. So it can be overwhelming. It can be scary.
Yeah, I was told, bring your kids to the polls as early and as often as possible so they acclimate to that practice. So that's great.
Are there any community partners that you have, or is there opportunity to partner with the League of Women Voters?
Absolutely. So thanks for asking that question. That's really great because, again, I think the way to reach people is to amplify the work of others, right? You can't know everyone, but you can network in. And so I think that's really crucial to the work that we do. So we've partnered with African Heritage Inc. We've partnered with People of Progression, the New Hmong Professionals. We partner a lot with Esther, AAUW. So there's just a lot in art going on in our community. The Celebrate Diversity, we've partnered with the Multicultural Coalition. And when I say partner, I mean, I think it's as simple as, promoting their events, having them promote your events, just whatever you can do to reach those that are least likely to be engaged or to have the information so that you can help them, again, make government more accessible and more responsive and reflective.
Awesome. I think it would be appropriate for us to hear from you a specific narrative to help our listeners understand the importance of your work and what you do.
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question. So I did share a little bit about the DMV, but what I love most when I'm out in the community at one of the tables or, talking to someone, if I go back to comic book terms, right? So the League, we are the democracy defenders. It's like when you're talking to someone who hasn't, voted before, you can kind of see the the light click on in their eyes as they realize that your voice is your vote. That is your superpower. And if you're not voting, you're leaving that power on the table. So it's just so empowering to see people get into action, just to take that up, and you get the little chills in your spine and you say, I'm making a difference. This person is going to be a voter now. This person is going to get involved. Well, I kind of said it before. Step one is, the voting, right? Everyone should vote that's eligible. And you should be, advocating or being an ambassador for voting, with all your circles, with everyone you can. But I think the next level gets into a lot of the core work that we do too that I don't want to gloss over or not shine a light on, which is we have a really strong group of people that we call the Observer Corps. And those are the folks that really pay attention. I mean, they show up, they go to city council meetings, they go to county board meetings, they click along online and they read the agendas of what's coming up and what's going on. And so to be able to not only pay attention to what's going on in your local community here, again, local really does affect your day-to-day life, right? Whether it's trash collection, road repair. I mean, these things matter. So to know what those issues are and then to connect the dots, are these folks who are going to be most impacted about this, do they know about it? And so then you can become, kind of the educator and the advocate and serve as that bridge so that it's a two-way communication between the policymakers that are making the decision and those that are most impacted by it and that might not even know that, hey, this meeting is happening and this is in your backyard or, whatever the issue may be. We also, in addition to the candidate forums that you mentioned, I want to mention that we do hold monthly free educational programs. We try and do it throughout the Fox Cities so that it's accessible to people in all the geographies that we cover. And we typically hold them in the evening on topics. So, we have for this, we already have our calendar set. It's on our website. And you can just a couple of the topics that we'll be giving, we'll be discussing. We have reproductive rights coming up. We have sustainability and climate resilience in specific to our area. We're talking about, just the importance of, the maps that have changed. I think that's a big issue for Wisconsin in general, particularly in our region. I think it's confusing, right? People are like, well, I always voted here and this was always my district number. And that may have changed since the last time you voted. So we want to make sure that information is readily available. So again, those are all things that we try and provide to do that second level of civic engagement, which is really to get educated on the issues, to know what's going on in your community.
I have a follow-up question to that narrative because I stumbled into something and I'm wondering if you had some involvement with this because it was an aha for me. There was, I don't know if it was legislation, I think it was some enforced rule about people physically being able to deliver their own ballots to the ballot boxes, but people with disabilities that were prohibited or didn't have the physical ability to get out of their homes or out of their beds to get there. That was a huge, advocacy initiative that I heard about and it really touched on my heartstrings because I never would have realized that something so simple as you physically have to put your ballot in the box or you have to physically vote was so prohibitive for so many.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with some of the long-term care facilities, right, who have, some, homebound people. Again, absentee is a great way to do that. The I think the most common mistake, I'm not a clerk, so I can't speak from lived experience, but my understanding is that the biggest challenge with the absentee ballot is just making sure you have the valid witness signature. You need a second person. So, things you can do to make sure that there is that access to voting. And I think, just more broadly, when we talk about our process and the advocacy, like issues like how can we ensure that voting is more accessible, it's not, the league doesn't just say, this feels right, or this should be what we should be advocating for. I think we are a very unique political organization. So I said we were nonpartisan, but we are political. So we're not a political party. We're not a candidate, but we do issue-based advocacy. And what sets us apart from other political organizations is our process. And we've been following the same process for our entire history. And it starts with research and study. And so we put together small teams. We do that. We have a meeting in January of every year called Lively Issues, and it's anyone is welcome, whether you're a member or not. It's open to the public. It's free. There's snacks, and we come, and it's so fun. I'm obviously kind of a geeky policy wonk, but I think it's super fun because it's really sitting around and saying what issues are critical, like what are the most critical issues. And then we have to kind of put the filter of, okay, what's like happening locally, right? Like not the national stuff, but like here and now, what is the most critical issue? And then the second level is what can we impact? What can we make a difference on? And so then everyone gets together and we vote. We have, a sticker method, and, we whittle down what are the core issues. And from that, we put together study teams, and we do the research, and we talk to people in the community. We do, what would have been book-based and is now, internet-based research to really dig into a topic and break it down, and it gets very academic. And then from that, we come up with our positions based on, what we found generally with our research and what we're hearing in our community. None of our positions are final until a majority of our organization approves them. So it's not like following, sticking your finger in the wind and following the trends, right? We are research and process based. So I think that really has over time given us the reputation that we've built in the community for being, clear on what we stand for and why we're advocating for something and why we're out there educating on something.
All right, April. You kind of started down this path before, but I'm going to ask it formally now.
Sure.
Are there any upcoming initiatives or events or engagement opportunities?
Absolutely. Thanks. So we will be, as I mentioned, one of the most rewarding activities that the voter services teams has done is that voter registration assistance at the DMV. We will be doing that up till 20 days before the November 5th election. There is then a blackout period for the 20 days for when you can register. But never fear, if you've somehow missed that, you can still register same day at the polls in Wisconsin. So if you are not registered before Election Day, still go to the polling place, bring your ID and proof of residence, and you can vote there and then. But you can get involved. We have shifts throughout the day, the entire time the DMV is open, just to, again, grab people as they're coming out of the counter after they've waited. They put their time in waiting in line, and it's a very quick process. It probably takes less than a minute to re-register to vote if you need to. So that's one way you can volunteer and get involved. We will be at Tino Fest coming up in Pierce Park in September. We'll be at the Farmers Market this Saturday for Women's Equality Day. So we're always looking for volunteers to come with us there, to go into the high schools, to help with those 18-year-olds to get registered to vote for the first time. You can get involved too if you want to join the organization. The league is open, as I said, to anyone. You have to be 16 years or older, so that's the number one requirement. And you have to agree to our nonpartisan and DEI pillar, foundational principles. You don't have to believe in every position that we hold, but if you're feeling inspired and you really want to get out there and do the work of engaging citizens and getting people involved in government in a nonpartisan way, then this is definitely the organization for you. If you want to get out there and you want to learn more about local issues, this is most definitely a super fun organization. You will find you will geek out with all the policy wonks in the group, and so it's open to anyone. And we have sliding scale memberships, so there should be no barriers to anyone joining the organization.
How could people get a hold of you? I know you mentioned your website, but certainly I'm sure this has inspired somebody to want to get involved or learn more.
Awesome. Yeah. If anyone is interested, I do highly encourage you to check out our website, which is our local league here for the Appleton Fox Cities. It's at lwvappletonfoxcities.org. So one more time, it's lwvappletonfoxcities, all one word, lowercase, .org. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm always open, always interested. You can reach out to diversity@lwv@appletonfoxcities.org. If you want more information, just do info@lwvappletonfoxcities.org.
You've shared quite a bit of information. Let me ask this. Is there any additional information you would like to share with the Appleton Engaged listeners for something that maybe we didn't ask a question about?
Oh, that's a good call. I don't know if I have anything. That you guys had really good questions. I feel like it was a great conversation. I hope that this sparks interest or encourages people to really get out there and get involved and not be turned off by all the noise and the hype. And I think politics can kind of feel like it's a little bit confrontational or icky and you don't want to talk about it. But I hope this inspires people that there are ways, and you shouldn't be a cynic. You should always be involved, even if you don't have the perfect candidate or the issue isn't perfectly aligned, with what your belief is. That's not a reason to not get involved. So always get involved. I would love to just give a quick shout out to all of those unseen, unsung heroes that do the work of democracy every day, the clerks, the poll workers, the local elected officials, all of those folks that make democracy happen. I think they deserve unending praise and kudos. So
I have a question that I guess I hoped you'd share a little bit about when there was more information that you wanted the listeners to know.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if this year being a presidential election year is a lot more chaotic for your organization than any other year.
I think we find ourselves, it's so funny. I once heard a joke in my government relations life. We're only relevant on the even number years, but I think anytime there is a big national election, a presidential election, I think we find ourselves much more busy. We are always trying to get out there, and civic engagement, action it's more than just election day, but this is a critical, elections are always critical. So, I think you're more likely to get attention and grab people when there's all this noise and hype in the air. But I do have to say, some of the things that we encourage people to do to take action, it's letter writing to, it's asking a question at the candidate forums. It's writing a letter to the editor or to your representative. There's making phone calls. There's lots of ways. It's just attending. It's paying attention and knowing what's going on. And we live in an era. Yes, it's easy to criticize social media and technology, but it's also really helpful. You can just click and see what's going on in my city, what's going on in my county, and it's all there for you. So really encouraging people to keep to beyond the day after election day, or to beyond the election, to keep involved and to keep engaged.
So knowing how many people it takes to make this possible, you mentioned the unsung heroes as your shout outs. Who else would you want to shout out today?
I just think there's so many great work. I love Appleton and the Fox Cities. I'm super biased when it comes to that. I'm always impressed with the work that some of those organizations that we've worked with in the past. I think they do such a tremendous job. Celebrate diversity, just bringing people together to break bread and just have fun, and that shared human experience. I think African Heritage has done a great job with the Juneteenth, that just bringing people together. The joy is palpable. That's just a celebration. It's finding those connections, that joy. Esther is doing a tremendous job. I know they have a different task force that focus on some of the really really challenging, tricky, sticky issues, justice and how we, treat people in our society. Those are hard questions. So I really appreciate those groups. And Multicultural Coalition, they just have such an amazing, they do a monthly meeting and they just have such a wide spectrum of voices and perspectives. I mean, that's democracy. That's what we need. We need those fresh perspectives. We need those voices at the table.
Well, at this time, we're going to start wrapping up this episode, and I'm going to first say, April, thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. What a fun Friday. With a smile.
With a smile. Appleton Engaged listeners, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for being an engaged community member and caring about another resource out here making our city a better place to live. We are a work in progress. We are trying to become the #1 podcast in Northeast Wisconsin, and we need your help to do that. So if you've got ideas for segments, if you've got questions you would like us to ask, if you would like to be a guest, if you would like to recommend a guest, just reach out to us at diversity@appleton.org. Once again, that is diversity@appleton.org. Also, this podcast we think we have something pretty special. The more eyes and ears that learn about it, the more informed community members that we have, which makes for a more engaged community. Well, to get in front of more eyes and ears, what we need is better analytics. And how do we get that? Well, you're listening right now. Take the time and give us a ranking, preferably 5 stars. And also, if you've got a few more minutes, just go ahead and take a moment and fill out a review. These things help improve our analytics, and the better our analytics, the more eyes and ears get to learn about this amazing resource, this amazing podcast known as Appleton Engaged.
And I, too, would like to recommend that the listeners replay this podcast and listen to it again, and not at a 1.5 times speed, because April has shared an abundance of information. And I know there's so much more to unpack. And I know I'll be listening personally with a curiosity of where can I get involved and how can I learn more. So my favorite quote that you had of all that you've shared is, "Your voice is your vote." And I love that. So until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.